Welcome back, folks. We're here with another great show. We have a wonderful guest with us today, William Ford. He's a husband, he's a father of three, 12 years in the HCM sales game, and he is the owner of Coast to Coast Payroll and Payments. And this is a sales broker for HCM sales. Is that right, William?
That is correct, sir.
Awesome. Welcome aboard. Before we get to you, William, how you doing, Walt?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to have William here with us
Yes.
and learn about his craft and his skill set and get some pointers on what he does.
Yeah, for sure. Learning. We always love to learn here. Before we get into that, we got you. I know you got the questions in advance, but we love origin stories, right? We always want to hear how folks broke into payroll. How'd you get into HCM sales? What's your background? How did it all happen? How'd you get to this point?
Yeah, so for me, I've been in the banking industry for 5 or 6 years. I was managing a local branch up in Detroit, Michigan, where I'm originally from. And I started dating my now wife. And as we were looking to move in together and combine finances, we just started having real conversations and basically came up with banks don't pay really well.
That's true. Facts.
Especially like
Facts.
branch managers.
Unless you own it.
Yeah, they just don't like to pay a whole lot of money.
That's true.
And so I actually went to my regional VP at the bank and I asked him, I said, I need to get a raise or move me to another branch. I need to make more money. And he literally verbatim, he told me, if you want to make more money, go to another bank.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
thought,
That's crazy.
So
yeah, that's horrible.
I decided to just start looking around. And that bank, we partnered with Paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I always did really well with referring paychecks into our business accounts. And
Nice.
so I just said, well, let me just look into paychecks and see what that does. And the salary was bigger, the commissions were better, and I applied for the job. I interviewed 3 days later. I went through 2.5 hours of interviews with 4 different people coming in and out of the conference room. And
Wow.
at the end of that week, they offered me the role. 2 weeks later, I was training at Paychecks.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was 2011. That's when I cut my
Okay.
teeth into the payroll industry.
Nice. Wow. Oh, that's a cool story too. So sales, you broke in as sales.
Yes.
Okay. Did you find any challenges becoming a payroll salesperson, but I'm assuming you've never processed payroll?
The only thing I knew about payroll walking into this was that I got my direct deposit like every 2 weeks from the bank. Like, that's all I knew, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
I didn't
how
know
did that
anything
go?
about I didn't know anything about breaking down FICA and STUI versus FUTA and all these alphabet soup for me. I'm like, what in the world is all of this stuff?
Yeah.
Thankfully, at least then, Paychecks, they had a great training program.
That's awesome.
They would fly us out to Rochester, New York for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it was basically payroll 101. You
Wow.
learned everything about what goes into running a payroll, the taxes, when they're filed, what semi-weekly depositors are versus monthly deposit. They
That's
really go into that.
awesome.
So I don't know
Wow.
if they still do. I haven't been there for a long time, but then, man, it was really eye-opening for somebody who didn't know anything about it coming in.
Right. Yeah. No, but that's awesome. I love it. So now you have coast to coast payroll and payments. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, coast to coast really just came from the idea of I've been in the HCM space for over a decade now, and I've been building sales teams for 9, 10 years.
Nice.
And I've done it at multiple organizations. And the last organization I was with decided to go in a different direction. And so when my position was eliminated, I, again, sitting down with my wife, having some conversations, and we said, I could probably just apply for jobs at other HCM places and go build a sales team for one of them again. Or I could look into doing it myself.
Yeah.
What I was able to actually find through some of the connections that I've made in the industry over the years is I was able to find a large publicly traded organization that will manage all of the service side so that me and my team can just go be the salespeople that we are. And then we have an accountability system in place so that we know the service is at the level we need it to be. And so that we can come in whenever there's a service issue and we have input in that, even though we're just a sales organization.
That's awesome. Perfect segue. What have been your greatest challenges about payroll sales?
I would say early on, obviously learning payroll, understanding what all these different acronyms stand for and how taxes get moved and when they get moved.
Yep.
And this is something that a lot of on the operations side, when you're the customer, you might not even think about this, but I believe too many salespeople miss in this space is the tax money that has to be moved by the different people. You know, if you're with XYZ payroll today and you switch over to ABC payroll tomorrow and they start processing for you, what are the tax ramifications?
Good
Who's
call out,
responsible
man.
for what, right?
It's a
And
good
so I
one.
think that's a really big challenge for most, especially those who are new to the industry. That's a big challenge because they don't know. And it's a challenge in closing deals and trying to help the client understand this is what those tax dollars are going to look like. Paychex is responsible for this. We're going to be responsible for this moving forward. We got to pull this money up front, but you're going to get it back in 4 days from ADP. Like really walking through that part's a big challenge.
And let me
And I
ask
think
you, is
go
that
ahead.
why best practice for payroll transitions is like a quarter end, either a year end or a quarter end?
I believe that's why a lot of the accounting community wants to push
They
their
like it then.
clients to only switch at quarter breaks because it's clean.
It's clean.
Yeah, it's always going to be clean, especially with the filing of that return, you know, right?
Exactly.
The 941 or whatever your state
Exactly.
form is.
There you go.
I've always talked with my sales teams, even those that I've trained into the industry, is a lot of our customers out there are at the very least a monthly depositor. And so there might be like a small FUTA dollar or a small SUI dollar that might have to change hands. But you could still move people at their first payroll of a new month because the monies have already been moved by your current provider. So you can do a lot of that inside of a quarter. Just understanding who's responsible for that quarterly return at that point.
Is that usually client driven though? Hey, I need it done now. Don't worry about the quarter. We got to go now. Or do you find like it's more client driven, or do you guys actually push a month in? Or does it even matter, right? You just, hey, do whatever the client needs, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of combination of all of that.
Okay. Okay.
If you do it right and you walk the client through what those money exchanges are going to look like, then moving on a month is not a big deal at all because you're taking over. We're responsible for the quarterly return. It's all going to be really easy. We'll take care of it.
Yep.
It's when the clients had an issue at their current provider and they're like, man, I got to go and I got to go now. I don't want to, I don't trust them to run another payroll.
Yeah, I know that feeling
that's
too.
Really, yeah. Yep. Or you get with some of these, sometimes you get into these larger companies and the sales pressure is so strong on their reps. You got quotas to hit.
Yep.
Right. And sometimes those quotas are dollars and sometimes they're units. And if you don't get your units, you're losing your job. So now the salesperson could become the one that pushes and is the one who's making that move instead of waiting for what's best for the client.
Yep. Got it. What have been some of the opposite? What are some of the biggest rewards in payroll sales?
Man, I will tell you, my biggest personal reward being in this industry has been the amount of business owners that I've been able to create relationships with. And then they become long-standing relationships, whether that's people who become clients or even like those in the accounting community. When I first started at Paychex, it was, man, you got to meet every CPA in your industry. That's your number one referral partner. Go meet them all. And to this day, I'm 12 years in. I've moved. I haven't been at Paychex in 8 years. Still have relationships with a handful of those CPAs where I can call Frank. And when I'm in Detroit next week, and me and Frank will go have a glass of wine together at happy hour because
if you're good at what you do,
relationship's been built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right. I do the same thing as a payroll person for my companies or whatever company I work for. I become great partners with my vendors, right? Because a lot of times clients take that kind of air of you're the vendor, just do what I say. You know what I mean? Just very dismissive and very, you're the vendor. I pay you. Come on. These folks have a lot. They're human on the other end, right? We don't pay the client rep that I'm using. They're not getting rich off of this deal. You know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
they're humans. I gotta partner with them and be nice. Now, don't get me wrong. When I have to hold people accountable, I hold people accountable. But it's like at that point, they're like, whoa, Brian's upset. Man, we must have messed up because Brian's great with us. If he's upset, that means we really messed up. You know what I mean? So I love that relationship part of it. I love that answer, man, because you could have easily said, yeah, money, duh, the money, right? But
Right.
right, but
No,
and we
that's
do
the
everything.
truth. The relationships have been big. And then I've been in a lot of leadership roles. So I've built sales teams. And so it's been super rewarding for me as an individual to be able to hire somebody new to the industry, doesn't know anything about it, and see them 4, 5, 6 years later thriving,
That's
doing
nice.
really
Yes.
well. They've built their network, they hit their numbers, and it becomes a role and it becomes an industry where you're not grinding 45, 50 hours a week, banging out 200, 300 dials a day
Right.
to hit your numbers. And so to be able to look back and see some of those individuals and see them at companies that I hired them at 6 years ago, and they're still there and they're top performers and they do really well, that's
That's
also been a
awesome.
big rewarding piece for me.
Yeah. Oh, so you got a good eye for talent. That's cool. That's awesome. So as a salesperson, do you get to see the latest and greatest payroll technologies out there? And how does that work?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because it really depends on who you're with.
Okay.
If if you're a sales rep at, let's just say, Paylocity,
Yep.
and yeah, you're seeing one of the best, right? Paylocity's got a great product
Yep.
for their niche
For their
client
market. Yep.
base.
Yep.
So you are seeing it, but you could be with another organization that really hasn't changed anything or updated anything in 3 or 4 years, and you're not
Mhm.
seeing the latest and greatest. And the only way you could possibly see one of those latest and greatest is if you got a demo from somebody at that other organization. So what I have found with the changes in technology and as they improve technology and new things come out is really working with others in the industry to make sure that you're always up abreast of what is new out there,
Oh, wow.
right?
Yep.
So knowing a high level sales rep at a Paylocity, at a Paycor, uh, ADP, Paychecks, Heartland, knowing those so you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I heard you guys are doing this new. What's the
Yep.
change? How's it working? What do you think of it? And that's really, instead of saying, hey, they're the competition, man, stay away. It's no, embracing your competition, because at the end of the day, you're going to learn a lot from that. And so that's something that I've always tried to do. And I've always tried to instill in my reps as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What kind of do you guys limit? Now, as a salesperson, you probably won't, but what's in the portfolio, right? Is it just HCM? Is it just payroll service? Like, what are you limited to what you offer? Do you focus on only certain softwares and technologies? How do you pick what you're going to sell to folks?
Man, I'll tell you what, that's probably the best question you guys are going to ask today, because this is a really big component within our industry from the sales side of it, right? So you guys might not see it as much on your side as the client, right? And in operations, but on the sales side of it, think of it this way: almost every vendor out there only sells their product,
Yeah.
right? If
Yeah.
you call Paychex is selling you
Yeah.
Paychex Flex, that's
Absolutely.
their product,
Yep.
right? ADP, everybody has their deal.
Mm-hmm.
So within the organization, if you work for Paychex, now it depends on what segment are you in? Are
Yeah.
you in their 10
Mm-hmm.
employees and under? Are you 10 to
Right.
50? Are you CPA
Right.
only? Are
Mm-hmm.
you HR?
Yep.
Right. And so that's where you can get into, hey, my portfolio is nothing but this. And then there's other companies that you can go to that don't necessarily have all those parameters built in. So you can open up your portfolio a little bit more. What we're doing here at Coast to Coast is I don't have any segmentation whatsoever.
Nice.
So the 5 or 6 agents I have across the country, they can go after a 5-person weekly, like we just ran one today for a brand new company down in San Antonio, Texas. You can
Nice.
also go after a 350-person semi-weekly. It's his choice because he's going after the business he wants. And then we actually partner with 2 different vendors. So now we can look at which one's the better fit for the client
Nice.
versus
That's
just,
awesome.
hey, this is the avenue
So
we
we
got
got
and that's
right.
it. Right
I
now,
love it.
it's let's really have a discovery about what do you guys need?
Yep.
Where can we streamline and simplify processes within your organization? Let's talk about the gaps you have. What are you looking for? And then let me go see which one of my vendors makes the most sense for you.
Yep.
Yep. Wow, that's
And so
awesome.
then within that, the vendors we're working with, we can do standalone time and attendance if we need to, right? We can
Nice.
do just payroll, or we can do payroll with applicant tracking and time and
There we
labor,
go.
and we can get into HR. We can have that full
Full
blown
suite.
HCM, right? Where you
Yes.
have your Ben admin in there, we're connecting to
There
an
we
employee
go.
navigator,
There
right?
we
So you
go.
can do all that. It's
Taxes?
just
How do you cover
yeah,
taxes?
absolutely,
Through
yeah.
your
The
one of the
taxes are being
vendors?
moved.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, taxes are being moved by the vendor, so it's all being ACH. Everything's electronic. They're the ones filing the 941s. Your state forms are doing all of that for everything, and the filing of the W-2s and everything else at the end of the year.
Very cool. I love it. I love it. What about like now how they have the earned, what is it? The term is earn wages on demand, something like that. Pay on demand, right? When you can, folks can pay themselves daily and stuff like that. I don't want to say daily pay because that is actually a brand,
Right.
but it's
Mhm.
right, a great one at that. They look like right on that one. But it's earned wages like on demand, for lack of a better explanation. I think it's something with earned wages. Does the vendors have anything for that yet?
Yeah. So what's unique with that one, and we'll see more and more of this, is
Mhm.
there's separate entities that have created that, and then they're
Yes.
going to the payroll vendors to say, hey, you should
Partner.
offer this to your client base,
Yes.
and then there might be a small little fee for it, right? That,
Yep.
for example, if you work with anybody who's with Prism HR, so Prism
Okay.
HR, they're especially large in the PEO space.
Ah,
So
okay.
if you're with a PEO and they're using a Prism HR, you're going to have access to the vendor that they've already partnered with for
For
that
that.
daily pay or that pay on demand, whatever term you
Right.
want to use for it.
Right.
And so then you, as an employee, if you're using time and attendance, you're punching in, you're punching out, it's tracking all of that time for you right in your employee self-service. Then you can go into ZayZoom, which is the
Okay.
name of the vendor, and you can say, okay, ZayZoom, I'd like to get my $400 that I've already earned, and I'd like
Yep.
to get it today.
Yep.
And then ZayZoom can process that for you, and it's all built into payroll. So right now, what you're seeing is, again, there's separated vendors that are doing that, and I would think that probably in the near future, one or two of the payroll big guys will end up buying some of those vendors, and then they'll own that component and
Yeah.
they'll build it into theirs.
Yeah. I think well, ADP does have a solution, but ADP is really good at the marketplace, right? If they don't do it, they got their marketplace now. Mm. Earned wage access. That's what it's called. Earned
Yes,
wage access. The general industry term. Yeah, that's very good. What else? Let's see. So time and attendance is important. The earned wage access. You got, I'm assuming they have mobile capabilities for some of this stuff. They have a mobile solution.
100%. Yeah.
Nice.
And what you'll see in the market is just about everybody has an app,
Yeah.
but for the two or three that don't, they still have web based
Yes.
and it's mobile
Yeah.
optimized. So you're
Mobile
still doing it on
optimized.
your
Yep.
phone,
Yep. Or
right?
yep. If
What is
if
kind
you
of unique,
can, because I get nervous with doing payroll from a phone. They usually don't let you do that from the phone anyway. But like some of the stuff you can't, you shouldn't have mobile anyway. You know what I mean? So yeah, I get real nervous. Ooh, what can I do from my phone now? But yeah,
yeah,
especially now with the here's a good one: cybersecurity. Are you guys addressing cybersecurity concerns?
yeah, that's a great question. I would tell anybody looking at a payroll vendor, you should know what that vendor is doing behind the scenes for cyber protection.
Yes. Great advice.
Now, there's a couple of different tests that every payroll vendor goes out and does every single year, and they get they register their testing the with the test company so that it's all there. And any sales rep should be able to provide that for you. right? So if you're sitting down with somebody, I don't care if you're just talking to one or if you're shopping them, when you
Right.
sit down with them, you should be able to ask, hey, can you talk to me about what you guys do for cybersecurity to protect the data? And then
That's
they
right.
should be able to present you some sort of the findings from those tests that they run each year.
Thank you for that. Perfect. I love it. And as we close, we always ask our folks, what advice would you give specifically in this one, though? What would you give payroll folks looking to get into payroll sales?
So if you're looking to get into payroll sales and if you're coming from the operations side, right? If you're somebody who's run the payrolls,
Mhm.
payroll, and you're looking to get into sales, I would tell you the most important pieces for me walking into the industry would at this point would be I want to know how often do they change their compensation plan? Because that's a big deal. You get into sales, you get into it for the comp plan,
Ooh,
right? So you want to know what
Right.
your commissions are going to be, what your bonuses are. And some of these organizations are changing comp plans every single year.
yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Right. I know of one, they just changed their comp structure and people who were just hired 6 months ago, boom, they got a new compensation plan all of a sudden. So you definitely want to look into that. How often do they change comp? If you already know payroll, then the training piece might not be as important to you, but then you want to know what kind of market segmentation do they have and what market are you going to be in?
What does that mean, though? What does a market segmentation mean as far as payroll sales?
So some vendors will segment everything based on the employee count. And
Okay.
Brian, you may only be selling to clients that are under 10 employees. Walt sells to clients that are 10 to 50. I sell to clients that are 50 to 200. And
Right.
so if
Okay.
you're
Okay.
out and about
Okay.
and you're talking to people and you get introduced to a company that's got 65 employees, you don't get to sell that deal. You got to bring me in. And now I'm the one who has to go and sell that deal. And you might get like a little percentage of a
Yeah,
referral,
sure.
but it's not really moving the needle for you because
Right.
you just thought, man, I get to go close this 65-person deal. So I would definitely look at market segmentation and then which market are you getting put into, especially if you're someone who knows payroll already. I wouldn't want to start as somebody who can't sell to 50 and above.
Right.
I'd want to be able to have the ability because I know what they're dealing with. I know what their life looks like on a day in and week out
Right.
basis. So you want to be able to go after some of those deals that you're accustomed to. So those are probably the two biggest things that I would look at if I was somebody coming from operations looking at sales.
All
Hmm.
right. All right. Walt, anything else?
No, very
Walt,
helpful information. I just didn't want
Walt,
to say because
exactly. Walt, I'm sorry, but look, remember, Walt, a lot of it is audio only. This is only
yeah, yeah.
so
Right.
for
No,
the
I'm good. I'm
listeners.
good. I think it's good. This stuff like this, yeah, I think it's good to laugh about and have a good time about. Man, I'm good. No, William, man, it's been very insightful. I think that these type of conversations will pique the interest of people who are in payroll and may want to jump into sales,
Yeah.
and they don't realize, man, there's another avenue for me to potentially go into about something I'm passionate about, and this may
Yeah.
actually pique their interest.
Yeah,
I'll
for
tell
sure.
you guys this. I know we're coming up on it, so I'll give you two quick things. One of the absolute best salespeople in this industry that I've ever met, she is a rock star. She started off as a payroll specialist at the payroll company she works at. She ran,
Wow.
Wow.
ran payrolls for 2 or 3 years, and she said, I think I want to go into sales. And she is, I mean, she
Wow.
kills it a year in, year out. And I'm friends with her. I've known her for 10 years. This lady's on vacation all the time with her family because she puts up such big
Big
numbers.
numbers.
But it's because she knows the system as good as anybody. She
Yeah.
processed 150 payrolls a week for two
Yeah.
years.
No
Who
doubt.
knows it better than her?
Yep.
So there's definitely something to be said for coming from that side of the business and moving into sales. She's got the personality for it. She's really good at it. The other piece that I would look at when we talked about compensation, outside of how they can change things, a lot of the payroll companies pay an upfront commission when the client first starts processing payroll, right? So Walt Walt's Business LLC might start running payroll next month. And if he starts in August, then that salesperson is going to get 15% of the annualized expected revenue. And they'll get paid that in September, right? Usually about a month after the original processing. And then Walt could be with that payroll vendor for 10 years.
Yep.
And that sales rep got paid one time, and that's it. So that does two things. Number one, it's a reason why a lot of payroll salespeople don't follow up with their clients.
Wow.
Because they're like, man,
I'm done.
Once you're past 2 months, I don't care. It ain't going to cost me anything, and I don't get paid again.
Wow.
So the other component is there are only a handful, 2, 3, maybe 4, that actually pay a residual moving forward on the payroll deals.
Wow.
So now Walt LLC signs on with one of my agents. My agent's getting 50% of the deal for the life of the account. As long as Walt's with Coast to Coast, my rep's getting paid 50% of the deal.
Wow.
And then there's other companies like Heartland's one that's really good at it. They pay anywhere from 15 to I think 25% margin residual on the deal of the account. So that's another component to look at because you can get paid big commissions up front, but
and then
you look back
again.
after a couple of years, and you go, well, what the heck, man?
Yeah, I got I brought hundreds of clients in, but I'm still seeing only in one time. Wow. That's a great call out, man. William, we learned so much. I love that. That's really great. Wow.
And then you think about how that changes the service level, right?
Yes.
If I'm getting paid every month that you process payroll and you call me and say, Will,
I'm having
Jane
a problem.
didn't get her direct deposit, or my payroll specialist hasn't called me back in 3 hours.
Well,
hold on a second. Let me get involved and fix this. So now we take customer service that can sometimes be sketchy, and we take it to another level because now I'm invested as well.
I love that. That's something that sets you apart from the rest of the pack. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's awesome. Now, so to wrap it up, tell us, what do you want folks to know about Coast to Coast payroll and payments?
So what I want them to know about Coast to Coast is our motto is to be like an insurance broker, in that, again, we're not trying to be one size fits all and just squeeze you into the one vendor that we work with. We want to open this up to say, okay, let's take you to what fits your business best. But we're going to start that by having a real discovery about how you process, what you do, where there's gaps. How can we streamline some of those processes? What can we simplify for you? And I'll give you a real quick example. We've got a small customer just started. They ran their first payroll with us today down in San Antonio. It's a little tire shop. Thank you. They've got 5 employees paid every week. They've been doing payroll themselves. Cutting checks every Friday for the guys. Hey, you worked how many hours? Okay. And they just cut checks. And they had no way of verifying how many hours these guys are working. They have no way of controlling whether these guys are working overtime or not. Because at the end of the week, the guys go, oh, well, here, I wrote it down. Here's how many hours I worked. Here's how I was here. So they had a CFO for hire type of individual kind of come in to say, hey, let's clean some of this up for you. And the first thing he did was reach out to my agent to say, hey, these guys need to get on a real payroll system. What can we do? So we had that 45 to 60-minute conversation. Walk me through what you do. Why do you do it that way? How are you tracking this? Right. And we really went through step by step. You know, this person, they're late every single week, every month with their tax payments because they forget. They're running their business. They forget.
Small shop.
They're paying $2,000, $3,000 a year in penalties. Man, you just pay for our fees plus some.
Yeah, you go. Exactly.
So then we started talking about timekeeping. Let's simplify some of this for you. Instead of just putting it on your guys to write down their time card on a piece of paper, how about we start really looking at, let's simplify some of this. So we set them up with their timekeeping is all going to be part of the app that the guys put on their phone. And it's geo-fenced for the parking lot.
Love to hear that.
Right? So they can't punch in down the street at McDonald's or Starbucks or home. It's geofenced for the parking lot of the business.
Yep.
But what was more important to them was they needed to be able to do scheduling inside of it and be able to
Yes.
get a notification that tells them Joe punched in before his schedule or
Yes.
after his scheduled time.
Wow.
Yes.
Now they can start taking overtime down because they don't need
Right.
to be paying 30 hours a week of overtime.
Yep. Yep.
Right. So
Some labor management.
simplifying
Yep.
and streamlining some of those processes for them. It's a 5-person company that's been around for 20 years. They might be our client for the next 20 years because they've never really talked to anybody about this before. But taking the time to actually know what they're doing and where the gaps are so that we can make the right recommendation, that's really where Coast to Coast is going to pride itself. Each one of my agents around the country, that's what they're going to do. I do it. I sell payroll. I'm out there talking to business owners every day about it. I'm in my networking groups. So
Nice.
that's really the commitment from us. And that's the one thing I want anybody to know about Coast to Coast.
I love it. Perfect way to end it, man. That's awesome. Walt, anything to sign
Nope,
off?
that was perfect. That was
Yeah,
perfect.
man. That's awesome, guys. So folks out there
Awesome. Thank you,
listening,
guys.
if you hear that level of service for us, we really partner with, we've been blessed really to have folks on that have this incredible service level. Check them out, Coast to Coast Payroll. Thank you, folks.
Yep.
Till the next time, have a good one.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for tuning in to It's About Payroll. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep going.